morning, folks. Thank you for taking your time to be a part of this masterclass training session today. Am I audible to all of you? You could leave us a thumbs up from within the console if you can hear me. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Yes, so like I was saying, this is the fifth edition of the PAM Masterclass series. This is the fifth season, and in this episode of the masterclass, we will be delving into privilege elevation and delegation management controls of PAM 360 and other products within the PAM suite in the Manage Engine portfolio. Right. So before we begin, I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Srilekha, and I am a product consultant and marketing manager for PAM solutions at Manage Engine. And in this particular session, like I said, we will be delving into the privilege elevation and JIT access controls of Manage Engine's enterprise PAM suite called PAM 360. So worry not if you're a Password Manager Pro customer or if you're a Key Manager customer. This is some good knowledge for you in terms of elevating your privileged access journey, right? So first things first, I'd like to make a couple of housekeeping announcements. All the attendees in this session will be muted by default. So if you have any questions during the course of the session, please feel free to raise your hands. We'll be able to take it up then and there. Or if you would like to save your questions towards the end of the session, yes, we do have a Q&A 45 minutes into the session, right? This session will be recorded, yes. So if you want a recording of the session, or if you've missed this session, if you've missed our earlier sessions, we will send the recording and the YouTube playlist of all our masterclass sessions, right? So if after this session, if you have any questions for us, or if you have any inquiries for us, you could mail us or write to us at hello-pam360@manageengine.com. Right. So before we begin, I'd like to introduce the Manage Engine PAM portfolio for you. So if you're a user of one of our PAM products, you might be aware that we have more than just that in our PAM portfolio. So we started off with Password Manager Pro, which is our enterprise password management solution. And we then went on to build Key Manager Plus, which is our SSH key and SSL certificate lifecycle management solution. It completely handles the PKI infrastructure for you. And then we have Access Manager Plus, which is a secure remote access solution. And all of this combined is Manage Engine's enterprise PAM platform called PAM 360. So PAM 360 typically will encompass all these features of Password Manager Pro, Key Manager Plus, and Access Manager Plus put together. And PAM 360 also has other advanced controls like cloud infrastructure entitlements management, endpoint privilege management, task orchestration, right? All of these features are also part of PAM 360's portfolio. So this is broadly our PAM portfolio today. And in this session, in the overall masterclass, we will be covering a lot of modules pertaining to PAM 360. And for demonstration purposes as well, we will be taking you through PAM 360's capabilities. So if you are a Password Manager Pro Solutions user, this might be of valuable use to you, because you've already started your PAM journey, and it is now time for you to extend your PAM journey with advanced controls of PAM 360 as well. So if you're looking to migrate, or if you're looking for more PAM features, yes, PAM 360 can solve all of those problems for you. And then if you're a Key Manager Plus user, and if you're looking to do just beyond PKI management, yes, PAM 360 can also offer advanced features like just-in-time privilege elevation, machine identity management. In fact, machine identity management is also a core part of PAM 360's module offerings. It also has secrets management. It offers, like I said, endpoint privilege management, cloud infrastructure entitlements management, and much more AI-related governance as well, right? So without much ado, I'll introduce you to this session. When you are a user of Password Manager Pro, you might have already started your PAM journey, like I said, with vaulting, secure sharing of passwords, password access control workflows, and just-in-time access based on your user roles and stuff. But if you would like to extend this to full-fledged and full-blown privileged access management controls involving just-in-time elevation and privilege elevation, you will need much more than just that, right? That is where PAM 360 comes into play. we have a comprehensive set of features that is offered by PAM 360 that are offered by PAM 360, starting with role-based access control, with which you can employ least privilege access to all your users, followed by cloud infrastructure and entitlement management. We not only manage your on-prem infrastructure, we also help manage and enforce least privilege access for your cloud environments as well. And not just that, with PAM 360's CIM module, besides employing least privilege access, you can also enforce other governance controls, starting from fixing access policies and making sure your users are also enforcing MFA in their environments. It can give you a comprehensive list of all the risks pertaining to your users and your services in your cloud environment, right? So beyond that, PAM 360 offers application and command control, sandboxed access to applications. It can help you manage your local administrator rights in all your on-prem applications. It can help you enforce policy-based access controls as well. So we'll take a look at each of these modules one by one in this session. And if you're going to be a Key Manager Plus user, and if all of these controls are new to you, I would say welcome aboard. You are in for a good knowledge session today. You will be able to see the complete capabilities of our PAM suite, and followed by, if you have any questions or if you have any queries as to how to employ these just-in-time controls in your environment, we'll be really happy to get on a call with you to see how we can work together on this, right? So like I said, with respect to PAM 360, we follow a maker-shaker framework when it comes to access granting. We start with the very basic level of role-based access control, which is also covered by Password Manager Pro. So if you're a PMP user, you might be aware that when you onboard users into your environment, when you onboard devices into your environment, you can employ role-based access control by assigning privileges to your users that is commensurate with their role, right? From there, you can actually scale up all the way to policy-based access control, and I'll be walking you through PAM 360's Zero Trust module, where you can assign access policies dynamically through trust scores, right? So that is something I'll be taking you through. And in the due course, I'll also be showing how you can monitor sessions in real time, how you can enforce application and command control, and how you can manage local administrator rights in your application, manage local administrator rights at application level as well, right? So like I said, if you have any questions in between, please feel free to use the question and answer panel. You can drop all your questions there, or you can save it up towards the end of the session and we can have a conversation thereafter, right? So, like I said, we will be taking you through the privilege elevation controls, but I would like to give you a quick context as to why and how you can employ these controls in real time, right? So, for the purposes of demonstration today, like I said, we'll be taking you through PAM 360's console, and we'd like to make this a bit more interactive and a bit more scenario based. So for the purposes of demonstration, let's assume that we have a user called William. I'm sure all of you has a William in your organization. So he's just another engineer who needs periodic administrative access to endpoints in your environment to make sure applications are working fine, and the hamsters that power your application wheel and deployments are also working fine, right? But to do this, he needs critical administrative access. But if you're going to be an administrator, if you're going to be an IT decision maker, or if you're going to be the manager of your IT operations, you need to ensure that no user in your environment has permanent standing access, right? So how do you ensure that while also giving administrative access to users like William, right? That is one question that is very, very pertinent to any organization. So to do so, what you need to do is employ just-in-time controls, right? Which means whenever William needs access, he needs to be given with time-based just-in-time access that is commensurate to his requirements and roles. And once William is done with all of his actions, he needs to be stripped of all his privileges, and you need to ensure that there is zero standing access or zero standing privileges in your environment. So that is exactly what PAM 360's privilege elevation controls will help solve for you. And we'll take a look at that right away, right? So like I said, when you log into PAM 360, you have this dashboard. But before that, I have logged in as William here, which is an end user. I'll log out just for showing you how the administrative controls are. I'll just log in as administrator here. And I'm logging into the PAM console. I'm sorry. So I've logged into the PAM console here, and this is the administrator dashboard. You will have a complete comprehensive dashboard of how many passwords have been reset in the recent past, how many passwords are there even in your environment, how many passwords are in conflict with their actual end resources, how many passwords have violated the password policies. You have a very comprehensive dashboard. And onto the administration panel, the admin panel, where you import users, assign roles to them. Just a quick summary of what we did in the last session. If you have to import users, you can import users from all these sources. Any LDAP compliant, directory service like Active Directory, LDAP, and any SAML 2.0 compliant SAML service, we integrate with those as well, right? And once you have to, let's just say you have imported users from Active Directory, you can assign roles then and there, right? You can assign roles as soon as you import a user. Or when you import a user, let's just say you've forgotten to assign roles. Primarily, these users will be given with the least privilege, the role that carries the least privilege, which is password user, right? So these users will not have access to full access to resources. They may maximum have modify access to resources, but they might not have full access to any resource, right? So with that being said, if you would like to assign roles to users later on, or if you would like to change the users of your users, or if you would like to create custom user roles, you can go to admin tab, and under customization, you need to click on roles. And by default, Password Manager Pro and PAM 360 offer these many default user roles. In Password Manager Pro, you do not have cloud administrator because it's a administrator role for the CIM module. But beyond that, you have all of the other, default user roles. But let's just say you want to create a custom role for a user like William. You can create a user role like application tester, or you can create a role like DBA for William. You can either use an existing role template, or you can create a new role altogether for users like that, right? You can choose what privileges to give them. You can choose not to give them certain privileges, and you can ensure that their role only has certain privileges that the other administrators do not have, right? So like I said, once users like Williams are added onto your PAM console, you can assign user roles. And once a user role is assigned, you can share all devices with users like William. So when you share when you share access to resources, you can share with users. And here, let's just say end user is my demo account here. I can share resources with them with these privileges. The maximum privilege that I can give them is modify privilege, because this is a connection user, which is very, very similar to a password user, except this user can also log into machines with remote app and connection access, right? So this is exactly what you can give, but you can't give full access to those resources, right? And let's just say you want to give access to a privileged administrator, you can give full access to that machine. So this way, you enforce least privilege access by default as soon as you import your users from Active Directory or any directory service, right? So this is the first step. Now you've onboarded the users, you've assigned them roles, you've created custom roles, you've also granted access to a machine which the user needs access to, right? So let me quickly log into this machine again back as an end user. So this is my local instance of PAM 360, which is why I'm logging into the console with local authentication. And now I have a certain list of resources shared with me on PAM 360. So this is exactly what I want, right? Passwords are masked for me, And if at all I need access to any domain controller or more critical endpoints, I need to first raise the request. Now, this is what you call request release workflow. So this is available both on PAM 360 and Password Manager Pro. So this is the first step towards implementing just-in-time access. I'll show you quickly. Let me log into the admin console again in a different tab now. I'm logging in as admin. Now here, I'm going to share resources with this user. I've showed you how the sharing takes place. But if I would like to share a particular resource with request release enabled, let's just say this is the PMP 2019 is the resource that I want to share. This is the domain control I would like to share with this user. What I will do here is go to resource actions, and under configure, I will click on access control. And now I can play around with all least privilege access controls in place, right? Starting from approval administrators. So I am now enforcing users to raise a request so that they can gain access to a critical endpoint. In this case, it's going to be a domain controller, right? So I am requiring at least 2 administrators here to authorize my user's request. Right? And you can also exclude certain users from having to request access to this machine. So that is a list that you can provide here as well. And under miscellaneous settings, you can enforce approval by at least 1 or more administrators. You should also enforce users to provide a valid reason before retrieving any password, which is exactly what we are seeing here. Right? In this tab, if you see, I'm required as an end user to raise a request to access this machine. So here what I'll do is, for application testing, this is the reason that I'm going to give here to test my applications, because I am William here. I am sending this request to an administrator. Now, since I've enabled this, you will be able to see that I've gotten a request here as the administrator. I've logged in as administrator as well in a different tab. And under access review, we have an access review module where under that you have something called password access review requests. You will be able to see a list of requests that are raised by all your users. And here, end user has raised a request for accessing this particular domain controller. Now I'm going to process this request, and I'm going to drop a note saying I have approved this request. Now this domain control is now ready for password check-in and used by this user called William. And you will be able to see this completely audited as well. So if you go to the audit tab, you will be able to see that some user has raised an request to access that machine while also being approved by me. All of these actions are audited in real time, so that if you suspect something wrong is happening, you can always feed these audit trails to your SNMP syslog collectors, or you can also connect PAM 360 with your SIM controllers or SIM solutions and see what's happening in real time in your environment. But we will cover that in the upcoming sessions. But right now, you are able to see all of these actions are also audited internally. Now, going back to my console as William, you'll be now able to see that my request has been approved. And that is why I'm able to check out the password, right? So this way, you have implemented administrative control to raise a request and also approve a request, which is also what we call request release mechanism. So if you are a Password Manager Pro user or a PAM 360 user, you may be able to see that you can have all your users go through a request release workflow before they access any critical machine or password, right? Now I've checked out the password. I can start a session, right? But here you may be able to see that you're not able to see the passwords at all. I'm only giving you direct one-click access to machine because A, I'm a connection user here as the end user. B, all the passwords by default are masked for me because of a nice critical control that I have enabled here. Now, as the admin, you have to go to the admin tab, and under this, you can click on general settings. and you will have a host of other security controls that you can universally apply for all of your resources. So the very first control you see right here is mask passwords, and I have chosen to mask passwords for all non-administrative users, including the end user that I'm talking here about, right, which is William. So that way I've masked all the passwords for William, which means he can never see any passwords shared with him, even though it is shared with him with modify access, right? This is how you employ the very basic just-in-time access for your resources. Now, let me show how the just-in-time access even works. Now, I've put you through a request release workflow. Now I'll show how the time-based access works here. So if you go back to the resource that I was talking about, which is a domain controller, click on configure again, and under access control, go back to the miscellaneous settings. You will be able to see there the password will be checked in automatically after 5 hours of approval time, which means if I use my passwords beyond I will never be able to use my resource or access my resource beyond 5 hours of time, because that is the only time period that is given to me to access that resource. Just above that, you will be able to see all the password request release controls that you can set, right? And you can also provide grace period to your users as to how much time they can extend to be able to access that resource whenever there is a critical need, right? So this way you are enforcing just in time access for all your resources by putting your users through a request release mechanism. Now, to summarize, you've given your users a nice role with privileges. And once you've assigned privileges, you've put your users through just-in-time access, through their roles, through the privileges that their roles carry. And you also ensured that they go through a request release mechanism where they will not be able to check out passwords unless they raise a request. And they will also not be able to see passwords in plain text, right? So this is the very first step. Now, since this is a domain controller, you can also give elevated access to your users, right? So how you can do that is, again, through access control, and under that you'll be able to see an option called privilege elevation. So just-in-time access is one mode of privilege elevation, but just-in-time privilege elevation is altogether a different thing, right? So let's just say you use an administrator account to log into PAM 360. That is a very bad security practice because you can't expose administrative accounts to multiple users. So what you do is you give normal domain accounts, normal user accounts to your users, and you elevate those accounts for a temporary period into domain security groups or local security groups. And once the temporary period is over, you de-elevate those accounts back to their regular privileges. Now, let me show you how that works in this domain controller. So under privilege elevation, if you see, there is an option called elevate account privileges, right? PAM 360 will automatically enumerate all the domain groups present in this particular OU. Now, you will be able to see that once the admin account is checked out, this administrator account should be automatically elevated to the security group called administrator, right? And you can do that natively through PAM 360, or if you are a user of Active Directory Manager Plus, which is Manage Engine's Active Directory IGA tool, you can do that using ADMP integration as well, right? Now I'm trying to do this natively, and let me show you how that works. For demonstration purpose, in this particular mission, I will log in as the administrator. Okay, I've used a different account to log into this account in this machine. Now, this is my Active Directory console. And here we have, okay, are you able to see my screen now? Can you drop a thumbs up if you're able to see my screen? Okay, all right. So I've logged in as one of the domain administrators within this console here as an admin. And I will go back to my console as end user, and I will try to log in to this account as William, right? I'm raising a request now, and I'm sending this request to an administrator. Now I'm toggling back to the administrator console of PAM 360. I am going to approve this request for this user called William, who needs just-in-time elevation for a domain controller. And once this is done, as William, I'm logging back in. Now the password here is available for me to check out. I am not even going to raise a session. I'm not even going to launch a session. I'll show you how elevation works here. I'm just going to check out this password, and back as administrator, I will show you what is happening in the background. Under audit, you will be able to see that the password has been checked out, but during checkout, the account William wants to access is also being elevated to the security group called administrators, right? So let me show you how that works. So you will be able to search for a user called William in Active Directory. You are able to see that there is a user indeed. And here I'm going to check out which administrator groups or which security or domain groups this user is a part of. You are able to see that this user is part of two different groups, which is administrators and domain users. Okay, let me remind you again. For this particular domain controller, I have mentioned that I have configured the access control for this user to be a part of administrators, right? So rightfully, William is now part of administrators group on Active Directory. You're able to see that William is part of administrators in PAM in Active Directory, right? Now let me quickly go back to my user account. Okay, now I've just checked in the password. I have not even raised a session. You will be able to see that I'm not able to see the password, and I have not raised a session also. So I don't need to raise the session, because once I check the password out, my account will be automatically elevated to domain group. Now let's quickly check in the password, which means I can't access this account again without raising a request. I have checked out the password now. I'm coming back to the admin tab, right? And this password has been checked out. You will be able to see under audit that the account privileges has been delegated. You will be able to see that this user has been removed from the group called administrators because the password has been checked in, right? Now let's just see that as well in action. You will be able to see that William is no longer a part of the administrator group, right? Originally, when the password was checked out for use, William's domain account was added to the administrators group of Active Directory. And once the password has been checked in, you will be able to see that the account has been removed from that group and William is no longer a part of the administrators group, right? So this way, you can actually enforce just-in-time privilege elevation for all your users who need access to critical endpoints like your domain controller. And the same process can also be applied to local servers as well. So it is not just that PAM 360 helps you with domain elevation. PAM 360 also has privilege elevation options for local and member servers as well. All you have to do is click on an account, configure access control for that account. PAM 360 will automatically enumerate all the security or local groups that this account is going to be a part of, and you can choose which group to elevate this account into, right? So to put things into perspective and to go back to where we were, we have seen how you be using PAM 360, you can employ role-based access controls, which is your least privilege access, how you can give passwordless just-in-time access to your users, how you can monitor sessions, how you can monitor all the audits in real time. I'll just quickly show you how you can monitor sessions as well. And we have also employed just-in-time privilege elevation and just-in-time access to users like William, right? Now, going back to the PAM console, to monitor sessions, all you have to do is under audits tab, you can see all active privilege sessions. Now, I have not logged in as a user into any of these sessions, so you're not able to see any active sessions at the moment. But once a session is available, you will be able to join that session in real time. You will be able to monitor what that user is up to during the session. And if you find that the user is going to be engaging in any sort of malicious activities, you can immediately terminate the session as well, right? So this way, you are employing session management and session activity monitoring controls as well to make sure that your users don't go, your users don't digress from what is required of them, right? Now, going back to the privilege elevation controls, we also have what is called remote app, right? I'm going to quickly go back to the user console, and you will be able to see that again, I have a list of controls here. I'm going to request an access to this machine called PMP2K19, which is again the domain controller which we were talking about. I have raised a request because remote app is enabled for this account. Let me show you how that works first, and then I'll show you how you can configure that, right? Now I'm going to raise a request for this machine, and I'm sending a request to the administrator. And in the background, as an administrator, I am going to approve this request again. Now I've approved this request. Let me switch back to the user console. And you're able to see that this account is also available to check out right now. And I've checked out the password. Now I'm going to launch a session into this machine. So you might be wondering why I'm launching a session when I need access to just one application, right? So you have use cases where you don't need to give access to the entire endpoint to a particular user. Instead, you can just give them access to one or two applications which they need direct access to, right? So that is what this remote app feature is going to solve for you. So remote app is a feature of Microsoft where you can give sandboxed access to applications without giving access to the entire endpoint. So we have enlisted a certain list of applications on PAM 360, and we have offered remote app access to those applications alone, and which is exactly what you're going to see right now, right? So if I have to access calculator or a paint application on this machine, I don't need access to this entire machine. Instead, when I launch a session into this machine, you will be able to see that I only have access to calculator, right? You're able to see that I don't have access to the rest of the machine. So that way, you're ensuring that when users launch a session, you also make sure that their access privileges are only limited to the applications that they want to access. Now I've logged back in as the user here, and I'm checking out the password. Right? So this way you can enforce app only access to your users. You can also enforce application and command control, which we'll see right away, right? So let me show you how, before going to application and command control, let me show you how this remote app even works, right? Now moving back to the administrator console to enable application remote app for your applications, under privilege elevation, you will be able to see multiple options, right? Here I have, I'm going to enable remote app for your users. For that, you need to go to the remote app option under connections, and you will be able to see that you can enlist a number of applications as remote app. All you have to do is add your remote apps from the domain controllers, and you can also discover applications from your domain controller using a domain administrator account. And once done, you will be able to see all of these applications listed as remote app. So when you give remote app only access to your users, you're only typically giving them access to the applications that need to be accessed by them and not the entire endpoint. So to do that, what you can do is go back to the resources, and under the domain controller, you can share this with your users. And if this is going to be a connection user, you can give them remote app only access to that user, right? So this way, users like connection user and end users do not have access beyond that particular application, and you're making sure you're condensing the attack surface by limiting them access to only certain applications and not the entire endpoint, right? Now, this is one way of sandboxing access to your users, and the other way is through PAM 360's application and command control to enforce application control, you need to first allow list a certain list of applications, right? So here I've already allow listed an application, which is command prompt, which is for the demonstration purposes. So you might ask, when I allow list an application, do I give them, do I just enlist the application here, or what do I do, right? To make sure that the allow listed applications are indeed the actual original applications and are not any kind of malware or any dangerous files, all you have to do is give the proper SHA checksum value when you're enlisting this application, right? To fetch the checksum of the application, we have an help documentation. We can help you with how you can do that. But for demo purposes, we've already enlisted an application, and I've also gotten the file hash for this particular application, and I've made sure that this is indeed the original application, right? So once I have allowed this application, I'll go back to my resource and I will enable application control for my the machine that I need to give access to, right? So to do that, all I have to do is click on that particular application, click on that particular resource, and application and command control can be enabled at account and resource level as well. So all I have to do is, under this machine, I have to go to configure, and under self-service privilege elevation, you will be able to see what applications I'm going to give them fine-grained access to. So what this typically means is, when you launch command prompt within this machine, you will not only give them access to that application, you're also giving them administrative access to that application. Now let me show you how that works in real time. Now I'll go to this machine, I'll launch access to this machine. Just a moment, it's loading. Logging in again. Okay, so I have the command prompts shortcut here. Okay, I've logged into this machine. I hope you can see my screen here. So this is the local machine that I'm trying to log in using an account called Harita, for which self-service privilege elevation has been enabled. And now I'm going to launch command prompt. You'll be able to see that I'm typing in a comment. You'll be able to see that I'm still logged in as Harita, which is my local account, right? So what I'll do right now is use this application with administrative privileges, right? What I'll do here is click on this option called run as PAM 360 privileged account and not run as administrator, simply because there are endpoint policies in certain organizations where you can't run certain you can't run certain applications as administrator directly. So what we will do is enlist those applications on PAM 360, configure self-service privilege elevation for them, and just that way you can actually run those applications as either an administrator or as a separate user which has administrative privileges, right? So in this case, I'm going to run this as PAM 360 administrator, and I'm just going to show how that works. I have elevated myself with administrator privileges. Now I'm going to type this title, this command, and you'll now be able to see that I have already actually launched the command prompt application as an administrator, right? So this way, worry not if you have an organizational policy where you can't enable administrative privileges or run run applications with administrator account. You can enlist those applications on PAM 360 and run those applications with administrative privileges, right? So this is how you enable application control on PAM 360. One second, let me quickly share my screen. So back to my end user console here. Now I've shown you how application control works, how application sandboxing works. Now let me show you how command control works, right? Similarly, similar to application control, command control also needs some sort of allow listing, right? Back in my admin console, you'll be able to see under the privilege elevation tab, there is something called manage commands, right? So to allow list certain applications, first you need to feed those applications into the PAM console. So how you do that is by typing in a list of commands and then you group those commands based on the necessity for the user or based on the nature of those commands. And once you have created command groups, you can enable command control for those users. So in this particular use case, you will be able to see that I have something called a Linux server for which I have enabled command control. All I have to do is just go to SSH command control option under configure, and I can give all the command groups that need to be allow listed for this particular resource. But what I have done instead is I have enabled that for account level, right? The same process, account actions, and under that configure SSH command control, you can provide, these command groups. You can enlist these command groups for these users as well. Let me quickly show you how that works. Right now, command control has been successfully enabled for this account called test. Now, back as user, you will be able to see that this test account has also been shared with me. I'm launching a session, right? Now, if you see very clearly, I will not be able to type any command. Here is an SSH session that I have launched using that account called test. I will not be able to run any command because of the command group that is already assigned to me, which means typically I have already created a set of commands, and that command set has been shared with this account. And this user using this account will only be able to type these commands without being able to type other commands separately. So this way you're ensuring that your users do not type in commands that are not required to do their job, or commands that are harmful for your environment. You only give them access to specific set of commands. So this way you can allow list and deny list applications for your users. Commands and applications can also be given with fine-grained access to your users, right? So this is with respect to PAM 360's command control and application control. So I hope I was clear here. So these are three options that we give to our users. One is sandboxed access to applications, which is through remote app. You also give application and command control for your users by allow listing certain applications and allow listing certain commands. And you're ensuring that people do not misuse their privileges by enforcing strict command control by giving them access to only certain list of commands that they need access to, right? Now, going back to the session agenda, we have already seen how command control works, how application control works, how application sandboxing works, how role-based access works. Finally, we'll take a look at how policy-based access works in PAM 360, right? Now, heading back to my admin console, you will be able to see a list of resources here. And here we have what is called a trust score, right? Now, you might wonder, if you're a new user of PAM 360, you might be able to see that there is 100% trust score here. Now, let's switch back to the admin tab. We have a module called Zero Trust, and under Zero Trust, we have a number of configurations, right? So how policy-based access works in PAM 360 is by leveraging trust scores, right? Now, if you're going to be a user who needs access to a machine, you give both the user and the end resource trust scores. And based on these trust scores, you can devise access policies in real time, whether or not to give access, right? So how that works is, to give users to give your users a trust score, you need to calculate trust score based on these parameters. You can give users trust score based on the number of invalid sign-in attempts, number of non-office login hours. You can give them access based on two-factor authentication. Are they, logging in from allowed IPs? So all of these put together, your users will get a typical trust score. And similarly for resource, you can also configure trust scores based on a number of parameters pertaining to that end machine, right? Which is the device protected using a password? Is password protection even on in the device? Are there allowed processes and applications in the device? Is privilege elevation agent installed? Are there any open ports in that machine? Is firewall enabled? So based on these criteria, you're going to set trust score for that machine. So once the trust score is set, you can create access policies, right? To create an access policy, you just need to click on add, create a policy, and you can you know uh, choose whether or not to get it approved by an administrator. Here I'm not doing that, and you're going to set some conditions, right? So to create this policy, you need to mention that the password policies should be strong, access controls should be enabled, and also you're ensuring that the user trust score is going to be greater than 50 and the resource trust score is going to be greater than 52, right? So if these criteria are not met, you will not give them access and you will deny or terminate their access. But instead of denying access altogether, you can also issue a warning. And in case all these criteria are met, you can choose what access to give them, right? You can also choose only RDP access. You can choose all of these access. That is up to your security policies as an administrator. But based on the trust scores, you will be able to you know uh, trigger actions as to whether or not you can give access or whether or not you want to issue a warning, right? So once this is done, once trust scores are enabled, you will be able to see that the trust scores are visible here, and I will be able to launch a session only if I have 100% or a 50% trust score that is being enabled for the resource. If the trust score is going to go low beyond the threshold, which is 50, my access will be immediately terminated, right? So this is with respect to PAM 360 zero trust controls, where you can generate trust scores and policies based on several criteria. And you can also trigger automated actions without requiring an administrator to manually sit and watch every session, right? And all these actions, like I said, are automatically logged as audits. And in the upcoming masterclass sessions, we'll also show you how these audits can also be sent to a SIM tool or a tool which works with UEBA principles to understand anomalous behavior as well, right? So for now, we have taken a look at all of PAM 360's comprehensive, zero trust capabilities with respect to privilege elevation and just-in-time controls. Now, finally, we'll take a look at PAM 360's CIM module. For now, PAM 360 can manage AWS environments. CIM is supported for AWS environments. We are also working, the CIM support for Azure environments is currently underway, following which we'll also provide support for GCP, Alibaba, and other cloud service providers as well. So with what we have here today, we have connected, PAM 360 with one of our AWS tenets, and we do that using a CloudTrail account. You will have to supply all these details to integrate PAM 360 with your AWS environments, and once done, you will be able to see that an AWS tenant has been integrated with PAM 360. Now, let me log in quick. Let me check out what's happening in my tenant. For this, we have a very comprehensive dashboard, and you will be able to see detailed set of information where you will be able to see the risks associated with each of your user roles and users. As per today, my AWS tenant, which I have connected with PAM 360, has 497 users with excessive privileges. We have close to 1,000 users with MFA not enabled. We have users close to 750 who have shadow administrator privileges, and out of that, we also have 1,000, IAM accounts with inactive dormant identities, right? So these are the risks that the PAM 360 CIM module can, proactively fetch from your AWS environment. So let's look at it one by one. Now, like I said, PAM 360 categorizes risks based on three categories, which is high, medium, and low. High risk users are basically non-MFA users, shadow admin users, which are like users who don't even know that they have administrator privileges. And it also categorizes excessive privileges as one of the high risks as well. So similarly, inactive users are considered medium risk, and where access keys and passwords are not rotated, those are considered low risk relatively compared to the other two risks categories, which I've just mentioned, right? So to see what is happening in your environment and to fix access policies for your users, you can have a nice visualization dashboard as well. Let's just say this user has shadow admin privileges, access privileges, and all that. I'll click on this user account and I'll be able to see the dependencies associated with this particular user account, right? This is even important because when you're having a cloud environment, when you're in a hybrid environment, it is not just your on-prem environment that has administrative accounts. Your cloud environment also has thousands of administrator accounts, right? This is just one tenant I'm talking about. You have multiple tenants working out of geographically distributed sites. So you might have thousands of IAM accounts where you don't even have cognizance of which account has what risk associated with it. So when you have a comprehensive CIM module that can give you a hawk's eye view of what's happening with your accounts, what risks are associated with it, it is pretty much easy to fix those issues then and there, right? So that is where PAM 360 control comes into play. You have all these accounts with associated risks. I'm just going to click on one of these accounts and one of these users. In fact, you'll be able to see the entire access map of this user. You'll be able to see that this user has administrator access to so and so applications and so services within AWS. It may be EC2. They might have access to RDS. You may not know which account they're using for which service, right? So this access map will give you a pretty comprehensive view of what they are currently accessing. And let's just say this user has a few policies attached to them. You'll be able to see all of these policies as well. And if, let's just say, you find that this user has more than necessary privileges, which is excessive privileges, you can remediate these risks then and there by auto-suggested policies by PAM 360, right? So this is the existing current policy of that user. Now PAM 360 will suggest a policy for this particular user based on the context of what their risk is, right? So this way you can remediate risks right from the PAM 360 control, and you can push a policy onto your AWS environment through PAM 360, right? Similarly, you will be able to see what user groups are part of your environment. You'll be able to see all the dependencies attached to this particular user group, what roles are attached to them, what services are attached to the roles. You'll be able to have a comprehensive view of all of that. And not just groups and users, you will also have a comprehensive view of all the roles in your AWS environment. So for which role, how many users are attached, what policies are attached to that role, what services and what applications are attached to that role is also something that you can take a look at. And if you would like to remediate any risk attached to a policy or a role, you can do that immediately, right? And to take advantage of PAM 360's CIM capabilities further, you can also integrate PAM 360 with an AI service provider called OpenAI. So right now we offer integration with OpenAI LLMs. In the coming days, we'll also have support for Anthropic and other AI LLM modules as well. So for now, we can integrate PAM 360 with OpenAI, where if you would like to generate policies automatically using an AI, you can do that for your CIM module as well. So this way, you will also be able to leverage PAM 360's suggested policy. You can also use AI generated policy for your AWS users and user roles and groups as well, right? So this way you will have a very good comprehensive view of what is happening in your both on-prem and cloud environment as well. So for this, like I said, you need a separate user role called Cloud Administrator for PAM 360. And this capability, which is CIM, is currently not available on Password Manager Pro. So if you're looking at implementing CIM for an organization which uses AWS, please feel free to reach out to us, right? So this is with respect to PAM 360's, comprehensive privilege elevation controls. To recap the session as to what we have done today, we've seen how you can enable role-based access control for all your users, starting from least privilege access to sharing full-on, administrative accounts with privilege elevation controls. We have seen how you can create access policies based on user trust scores and, context-driven policies for access granting automatically. We've also seen how you can enforce application and command control for your, Linux and Windows environments with sandboxed access as well. And finally, we have what is called local administrator rights management, which is done through an integration with Application Control Plus. So switching back to my admin panel, we do not have that in this demonstration machine currently. So I'll just quickly show you how that is done. You can integrate PAM 360 with Manage Engine's application control tool called Application Control Plus. So what you have to do is you need, if you are a current user of Application Control Plus, you can configure an integration, and Application Control Plus will fetch a list of applications for your privileged environment, and you can enable or disable local administrator rights on that particular application. And not just that, you can choose what applications to run and what applications to not run. You can enforce child process control, sub process control on those applications, and you can also allow list and deny list certain applications, right? So this is with respect to PAM 360's full on local administrator rights management. Now back to the recap. So we have pretty much seen how you can employ all of these controls with PAM 360, and so this is it with this today's session. If you have any questions, now the floor is open for Q&A. So please feel free to post your questions so we can take it up right up.